What up, everyone? DJ Nubis here with you on the Mealtime Radio podcast, doing another movie review. This time I'm doing Viking Wolf. And I've been waiting around for this one to come out since I saw the trailer a while back. Got released today on Netflix. So if you've got Netflix, check it out before Netflix decides to take your passwords away. Har, har, har. Directed by Stig Svensson. Also cast is Liv Moynes, Ellie Rihanna Osborne, Sejur Vatni Breen, and Vidar Magnuson. Basically, your story is a family comes and moves to Sweden after living in Norway for a while. And young girl goes to a party. Some violence happens there. A girl is killed. I'm going to get into this now for you all, but it's similar tropes going on here with the movie, but basically what's cool about this is the movie starts out really not the way I thought it would. So basically early in the film, probably about 5 or 10 minutes, you get what are Vikings back in the day raiding like a monastery or a religious settlement of monks. And as they're raiding, they get down to like this cavern part of the building that they're in, and the monks are pleading to the Vikings like not to open a locked door that's down there. So the Vikings, of course, they're there for gold and silver, so they're thinking, well, the monks are just trying to hide more riches and stuff. So they open it up, guy goes in there, and it's taking a little while, but he comes back, and it's not gold or silver, but he's carrying like this wolf pup. And judging by what they're saying on the narration is that this is like the hound of hell. But the Vikings don't notice. So the Vikings get back on their ships, go back to Norway, and basically that's history. Like the wolf spreads itself as far as like the bloodline, and you know, this part of it's like kind of like basically, you know, the Vikings go there, they get this thing, which I think this is sort of what's alluding to the idea that this pup somehow represents like Fenrir, which is part of their legend and their lore for Northmen. And so I think that's kind of like the play off of that. They don't really expand on it. There's probably one downfall about this movie is that it doesn't really give you a lot of background, not just to the Vikings and the lore itself, but not a lot to our main characters either. We get some glimpses as far as like what they're saying about it, but not much background there, which is unfortunate. But you know, I saw some reviews that, and I'm kind of jumping to the end here a little bit with that part of it, but the reviews didn't really like this film that much, and some were saying it was too long. I thought the movie ran pretty well. It was really well paced. I kept thinking it was going to end like sooner than it did, and I was glad it didn't, because it tells me they put some thought into this. And when I say that they didn't give any background, they could have added a little bit more, at least for the background of some of these characters and why, you know, this mother who is separated from the birth father and now with a new guy in Sweden. You know, we don't know exactly what happened to the separation, but that there's this friction between the mother and Thale. So, yeah, we're going to fast forward to 1,000 years to modern day. And you have Liv Moynes, who plays the mother, who is a cop, who's now one of the deputies for the local police in Sweden there. I always Sweden. And she's there with her boyfriend, new guy Arthur, who is stepfather or whatever. And then you have the two daughters. You have Thale and a younger girl, which I don't remember her name offhand, but she's mute, and she can only, use sign language in order to communicate with her sister and her family. So that plays a big part later in the film, actually. So early on, we're introduced to Thale, and she's like, now, of course, jumping right into it, she like goes to the refrigerator, steals like a 6-pack, and she sneaks out to go hang with some friends of hers from high school and party up in these woods by this lake. And as they're there, she's there, of course, being invited by one of the local guys at the school that she likes, and I guess he kind of likes her. Now she's brand new, of course, so she's kind of like this outsider who's there. Anyway, another girl who's already at the party asks her guy Jonas if they can go talk privately, and so there's some a bit of a impression that they used to be a couple because she seems kind of perturbed that this new girl's there, right? So it's kind of uncomfortable for Thale to be sitting there by herself. There's some other guys there that are some of this Jonas's friends that are kind of like assholes, and they're just kind of like asking her weird questions, and she decides she's going to go wander off with her beer. So then she's basically walking next to where the dam area is, and it's not really a big dam, but just enough that she can kind of see down the slope there where Jonas and this girl is, and they're talking. And she turns her head real quick, and it hears like this real, fast sound, like someone being hit or thumped. She turns back around, and the girl's laying on the ground. You don't even see Jonas, but you see the girl there, and she's bleeding. So she comes through the bars, and she makes her way down to where the girl is, trying to help her out. Then she's hit from behind after hearing some growls. And next time we see Jonas just a few feet away, he's got blood all over him. And Thale now has a wound on her back. And as she turns, she sees that the other girl, who's already been kind of fucked up, she's being dragged through some bushes. Like, it just disappears. We don't really see what it is. We can hear it. Clearly, Jonas and Thale saw something. Of course, the mother, who's part of the police force, shows up, and the sheriff's telling her, we got the boy here, but you have to know your daughter's here as well. And the mother's like, what? Kind of not worried at her kid. So she talks to her daughter, but they're both in shock, from whatever it is they've seen, and they don't really say too much other than the fact that there was a creature. Now, a little bit later, after they're investigating the area, the mother, Liv, she finds in a piece of wood next to where the girl's phone, or the dead girl's phone is. They haven't found her body yet at this point, but she finds like a nail, like a claw, embedded into a piece of wood from the forest. So she packs it up and takes it. And of course, the forensic person is in the corner, is like looking at the body and saying, well, it looks like animal attacks, but we don't really have animals that big here. So they had to end up getting like an expert from some university later on to come and verify that it is a wolf attack. Because the sheriff doesn't really believe it at first. He's like, we don't have wolves here. So he didn't want to send out like some searching party to kill just random wolves. He wanted to be sure. So once the expert proves that it is wolf, and that it's just exceptionally large for a wolf, that's when they actually go send out a hunting party, which doesn't turn out very well. But the cool thing is, the first half of the movie deals with this aspect. It's really thought out. It's really planned out. There's not a lot of like, it's not like usual werewolf movies where you see like just people dying like every 5 minutes or whatever. Like, this is just well thought out. It's not slow burn, but it's just well thought out. So the hunting party, they go out and they try to search for a cave because they figure that's where the wolf would be hiding. They do find another body along the way that's out there, and the sheriff kind of losing his shit. So I'm not going to give you too much more information than that, only because the movie's brand new. It just came out today, so I don't want to give away anything. I want people to really check this film out. So the second half of the film basically starts dealing with Thale, the daughter, like, because we know she's been, we know she has a wound. It's something that's getting pointed to occasionally here and there throughout the film. And obviously, if you follow werewolf lore, you kind of know, well, if you're bitten one or scratched by one, you're going to become one. And that's pretty much what's happening. She's starting to hear things much clearer, see it's almost like some things she's seeing, like not visions, but uh like the girl in class who turns around just to look at her, she sees the girl, and the girl like has fangs. It's like it's one of those things, delusions of sorts. Uh, so Thale thinks she's just losing her mind, of course. Um, but the interesting thing about this film is, by the time I get to the end of it, I found myself getting emotional about it, because uh, it's very rare when it does that, and the only other film that's done that, and I'll get to that later. Um, but the one thing is, I'm not a CGI expert on this film. I know they probably used it a lot for a lot of this to make the animal look as fluent as it is. There might be some practical effects in here, because some of the changes I saw with Thale, um, it looked like it was done through practical effects, but it could be CGI. I'm just not an expert on it. What I will say is, compared to other movies that I've seen, whether it's past or even like American Wolf in Paris, CGI is worlds better here. Worlds better. Um, if we're talking like the closest resemblance of how this wolf is, it's kind of like either like Wolfen, or even though I think Wolfen used real wolves at the time, but um, I know it's gonna sound funny, but Twilight. So think of the wolves that were in that. Those don't even look as good as these ones do. So they just did a really good job with it. It doesn't look corny. It's believable. I really like what they did with it. It doesn't really turn me off at all. I will say that the wolves themselves aren't usually my favorite. Everyone who's followed me knows how much I love werewolf films, and I'm very picky about the films that I like. Um, but I can live with these wolves because they're not corny looking. I really dig this. I dig the plot. I dig the idea behind it. Um, oh yeah. So here, I'm gonna give you a little screenshot. This has actually been out for a while. This particular screenshot, so you have an idea what it looks like. It's not totally clear. Obviously, it's a little bit dark, but this is certainly an image from the movie, and it's not badly done at all. Like I think came out pretty well considering. Again, it's not my particular taste of how I like my werewolves. I'm more of the Lycans, or the Howling type stuff. That everyone knows. I really love that film, but if you're going to do something of this nature and kind of make it a little more believable in terms of if it could happen, I guess this would be a way to go about doing that. Now, the closest film that this comes to, and why I talked about the emotion behind it and everything, is fucking Ginger Snaps, which is one of my favorite horror films, or werewolf films. Not only do you have the same kind of dynamic between the sisters, but the ending, which I'm not going to explain here now. If people have questions later for me about it, they can, because the ending is a little open ended, but yeah, at the same time, it's like I think it ended one way, but it left it so open that I'm not really entirely sure. I don't know if they plan on trying to make a sequel to this, because technically they possibly can, but yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what the ending is supposed to do for us, but I'm kind of glad, kind of unhappy, but either way, I still felt an emotional tie about it. Like there's an emotion evicted from that, and it was very, very pleasing. This film. Uh, if I have to give this film a rating, and contrary to some of these other reviews I've seen, like maybe they haven't seen as many films as I have on werewolves, but this is a 9 out of 10 for me, man. I will definitely buy this. For those that also, you can watch this in its native tongue, I assume, with subtitles. They have an English dub, which is what I watched, which is fine for me. I didn't have any problems with it there with that. But initially, when I watched the trailer, it was all in the native language. So, I was figuring I was going to go in and watch in subtitles, but I didn't have to, which is kind of cool. But a 9 out of 10 for me on this film. If it comes out on Blu-ray or DVD, I'm getting it. It's not going to outdo a lot of the other films that I really love, obviously, but I think it was Ginger Snaps and Silver Bullet that's kind of like around the 5 or 6 range. This would be grouped in with those. I did really enjoy this. I thought they put some good thought into it. Again, it's just one of the better werewolf films that are out there. And I try to watch as many as I can, but I've seen so many bad ones. Samurai and I did a review of 3 different films a while back, and they weren't good. Like, you can get some enjoyment out of some of that stuff to a point, but in the end, they're just bad. This to me wasn't bad. This was like an actual solid attempt at a werewolf film that had some feeling. And if you enjoyed Ginger Snaps, I just can't see how you're not going to enjoy this film. Just can't see how you're not going to enjoy it. Anyway, that's my review for Viking Wolf. Check it out. Highly recommended. And I'll see you next time, folks.